This is Continuum Drag, a weekly podcast revisiting television sci-fi, fantasy, and everything in between.
This week, The Martian Chronicles, Part 1.
Why, Jeff?
Because I have found that what the Martians had was just as good as anything man could ever hope to achieve. And I'm also concerned as to what we might bring to this planet to contaminate it on every level until we blow it up. Just the way we're bound to blow ourselves up on Earth.
How will killing us stop that?
It will delay the next expedition.
Welcome to Continuum Drag, the podcast that will kill any alien who looks at our wife wrong. I'm Luke, here with my co-host Jordan. What's real, Jordan?
How about I break out the liquor rations?
Yeah, break those liquor rations out, baby. What a time to be a space traveler. This week we are starting the 1980 miniseries, The Martian Chronicles.
Mm-hmm.
Know anything about this before we got into it this week?
Read the book.
Oh, you read the book, eh?
Yeah, years ago. And you know what's funny? I purposely didn't go back and look at the book, and I didn't look at anything around this because I wanted to see how much I remembered. Because I read the book years ago.
This is what I'm here for.
And I'll tell you, the book, from what I remember, is sort of like vignettes. It's little kind of short stories. I think that's actually how it was published. I think it was a bunch of shorts that he kind of strung together in a loose kind of plot.
Right.
And I remember some of it, and the one you kind of made a joke about, the alien who's jealous of his wife, that was in the book. I remember that for sure.
Oh, that one fell to me directly out of a book for sure.
Yeah, and some of it, like, obviously, we'll talk about, this feels like a book. Like, it has a very pedantic kind of pace to it.
Yeah.
And that's very book-like, but I didn't remember all of it. I don't know if it's my memory or it's stuff they added, but a good chunk, I say half of this I remember.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I know the title, Martian Chronicles, but I really knew nothing else. In fact, like, I didn't even realize it was a miniseries until I found it on a list somewhere. I was like, oh, I'm curious. Right, a little Ray Bradbury miniseries. Like, looks like they put a lot of money into it. So I was like, oh, cool. Let's check it out.
Yeah, I'd say I really like the look of Mars. I really like it in it.
It's very cool. Like, honestly, I thought it was interesting too. Like, Mars in this case it's mostly just like deserts on Earth that they've color timed a little, and sometimes not even that much. Like, they've done a nice job to do Mars. It looks fairly similar. Like, I don't know. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Anyway, this miniseries was written by Richard Matheson, who is we know him a little bit because he had done the TV movies precluding the Kolchak series.
Right.
Preluding? Maybe that's the one.
Yeah, they came before.
And so he's written this based on the Ray Bradbury novel, which I did not realize the novel was from 1950. So I'm like, well, this now makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Like, some of the stuff, even for 1980, I was just like, oh, that seems a little classic sci-fi sometimes.
Yeah, and I think I'm pretty sure the dates they use in this, like, I think, 1999 and all, I'm pretty sure that's the dates that Bradbury
would make sense. That would really make a lot of sense. And an interesting director too, Michael Anderson.
Yeah, who is he?
He had directed Logan's Run, Around the World in 80 Days. Like, a guy who's done some pretty big movies. I don't think he did a lot of them, but it's still like, and you can see there's like a vision behind this.
I would agree with that. And a pretty good cast. And I'll be honest, I didn't look into this at all, so when some cast members came, I was blown. I know you're going to say
when the credits were rolling, I was just like, first of all, I was like, this is an all-star cast right away, just because Rock Hudson is in it.
Yeah.
But then once some of the later names were coming, I was just like, oh my god, this is a Continuum Drag crossover episode.
Like, Kolchak is in this. Excited were you to see Kolchak?
Dude, when I saw his name in the credits, I was just like, I cannot wait to see Carl Kolchak in this, and he's great. He's so fantastic when he shows up.
Yeah,
and he's just Kolchaking it up.
Yeah.
Darren McGavin.
He's just a really likable, watchable actor.
I think I just want to go watch all his work.
Yeah.
Because I just like he's so watchable.
Well, we won't get too caught in the weeds in this, but he's that kind of actor where even the character he's playing, later in the movie we're going to see about 5 astronauts go together. You just want to see what he's doing because he's added so much to like a blank slate of characters where the other astronauts are kind of like walking around, and he's just so much more entertaining.
So much more, like, way too old to be an astronaut, but so much more entertaining.
Yeah, I know. He's clearly balding. And I was bummed because I see later on that Roddy McDowell's going to be in it. And I was excited about that.
Not this episode.
Not this episode, though, yeah.
Well, it aired on NBC for 3 nights. 3 nights in a row, which I thought was interesting.
I like that.
Yeah, it's kind of. I could see how that would be a fun event because it was January 27th to 29th, 1980, which I feel like maybe is not a place to maybe program something that you're not expecting to do well, but I could be wrong. End of January, I don't know. I feel like that's like a dumping zone.
I mean, it might be a little hard to tell because that's sort of like, this is even kind of like pre-cable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's only, 4 channels to choose
what,
from?
What are
so,
you going to turn away?
Yeah.
Well, Jordan, let's talk about this then. Because I had a little look at what was happening in the world while this was on television, as I always do. And I only have one like general world thing, and that is that on January 29th, last day of this, the Rubik's Cube makes its debut.
Wow,
At
that's
a
a good
toy
one.
convention.
You ever completed a Rubik's Cube?
I certainly have not.
Me neither.
I think there's a trick to it.
I think there is too, because you see how fast these kids kind of spin them and stuff. But I always was like very frustrated. I could maybe get one side, then I was like, I hate this toy.
Former guest Will, who's been on the podcast, he got a Rubik's Cube and then he trained himself. I think maybe via YouTube videos to figure out what that trick was. And I remember I went with him somewhere. Don't ask me why. We went to a bank. And a man at the bank had a Rubik's Cube on the shelf behind his desk. And Will's like, "Can I see that?" And he took it and he did it in front of the guy. And the guy's mind was like exploded.
I
got a great loan that day.
I will cut this out. I once years ago was looking at apartments, looking to rent. And I went into this apartment and I was waiting for the landlord. And he came in and was showing me around the apartment. And then he said, "Hold on, stop. Where's my Rubik's Cube?" And I said, "What?" And then he started opening all the kitchen cupboards. And in one of the kitchen cupboards was a Rubik's Cube. He pulled it out and then started playing with it for the rest of the tour. That was peculiar, right?
He's a pickup artist.
Yeah, I don't know. It was very odd. And I remember just being like, I don't like any of this. Anyway.
All right. Well, something else that happened while the show was on, more important to our podcast anyway, is there was a TV series and a TV movie that happened, one nearby. The TV movie happened about 2 weeks beforehand, and the TV movie... or the TV series, I apologize. So TV movie 2 weeks before this. TV series premieres the same day as the first episode.
Was it Galactica 1980?
Galactica 1980 is a TV series. Premieres the same day as Martian Chronicles. And then
what would you have watched?
I would watch this.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks before that, a movie we've watched. TV movie.
1980.
January 9th.
The Astronaut would have been too old. That was old.
Yeah, I think that was older.
1980. Oh, I bet you it was Triffids.
I'm afraid it was The Lathe of Heaven.
Oh, that was my next guess.
Which, quite the 1-2 punch that month.
Yeah. And that's, if you compare Galactica 1980, The Lathe of Haven and this, Lathe of Haven, or Lath of Heaven, whatever you pronounce it. Excuse me. Sorry, everyone. It's much more like this in terms of like your classic, there's a sci-fi.
It's far more classic sci-fi, big ideas.
Yes, exactly. Big idea.
Like 1980, which was
low ideas.
Low ideas. A lot of jumping scouts.
Yeah, flying motorbikes and all that. So everyone gets a little something.
But interesting. It's an interesting time.
Yeah, it is. You know what? We've said this before, but like, what a cool time for TV. Like in a lot of ways, this is way more experimental than what you get now, right?
It's some bigger swings for sure.
Yeah,
it feels like. But who knows? I mean, now that it's all cabled and like compartmentalized, who knows what's happening out there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Who knows?
Somewhere there's some great series no one's watching because it's on like Dust.
Exactly.
Making fun of Dust again. Sorry, Dust. All right, here we go. Here's the IMDb summary for the Martian Chronicles, Part 1, The Expeditions. The exploration of Mars begins with 2 failed expeditions. Colonel Wilder then leads a crew to discover the secret of Mars, only to find out all the Martians died of chickenpox.
No, that was in the book. That was one.
Yeah,
of the
I believe it. I'm laughing because it's kind of funny, but like it makes sense in the context of the show.
I forgot about it until they said it, and I was like, "Oh, that was in the book." Let me ask you something though, structurally about this show before we kind of get going. I know that this show. So each of these, I'm guessing, are going to be about an hour and a half. They're long.
They're full TV movies.
In terms of this, when I first started watching, we get to see the first 2 expeditions to varying degrees.
I would say it's divided like this: like first 20 minutes, Expedition 1. Next half an hour, Expedition 2, and then the final like bulk of it is Expedition 3.
So here's my question: in terms of actually watching this, when I first started, I was like, cut these out. I don't care. Just have someone mention some dialogue. By the end of it, I kind of understood the feeling and what they were kind of going for. But I did have that feeling for the first half hour of thinking, all this can get cut off with a line of dialogue.
Well, and you'll see in my notes, I've divided it into the 3 missions as well. And what it is in between the missions, there's a lot, like there's the Colonel Wilder character played by Rock Hudson doing a great job.
Yeah, I liked him in it.
I realized I haven't watched a lot of Rock Hudson, but I'm like, I should watch more Rock Hudson. He's doing very good. And like, there's another astronaut, Spender, who's there along the way, which he's a great character. I actually really like his character. And he's so the two of them are always there throughout these like first 2 failed missions. But I'm not going to talk about them a lot until we get to their mission, just because it's all like fluff around the edges of what's happening on the missions.
Yeah, all you really need to know is that like Wilder is that's the Rock Hudson character.
Yeah, he runs the Zeus expeditions.
Yeah, so he's basically like the NASA guy who we keep kind of coming back to at the mission control, who's like, that didn't work or that worked. That's all you really get from him until the I think 4th expedition, correct? Yeah.
And all we really know about Spender at the top is that he was supposed to be on the first expedition, and at the last second is cut from it. And it's very interesting since he's the only black character that you see. It's like, yeah, we cut you, and he's just like, don't like that. I'm like, well, fair enough.
Yeah, and it does not look good, and I don't know if that's what they were even implying, but
intentionally or otherwise, it elevates the show. Like, honestly, like it feels real. It feels interesting as a result, and like the guy playing Spender is like crushing that role. Like you know, a lot of this dialogue is very like one of these like books to movies, which can be a little over the top or a little on the nose. But he's doing great work. This guy.
And as we get through it, it's funny when we finally see the 4th mission, and he hadn't been on 1, 2, and 3. And when we first see them, he's not. You don't see him, and I thought, oh no, they didn't leave him home again. But he does show up for the 4th expedition.
Well, anyway, it all starts in July 1976. We're seeing the first sort of NASA lander touchdown on Mars. Some very nice miniature work on this show.
Yeah. I love old miniatures. I like the look of it, and I think, look, it's not perfect, but I would say this looks better than some things we've seen from the 90s with the CGI at the time. Like, this just looks better.
I mean, it's just fun because it's just like, it was difficult and how they would have had to do it. So there's a little bit of extra fun I always find watching miniature work, for sure. And this first unmanned craft lands, and we see a bit of a color-timed Mars landscape. And the narrator kind of tells us that this lander sent photos back to Earth from Mars, but because it landed where it landed, it sends back photos, and everyone on Earth's like, well, no life on Mars. And if only it had landed a few miles away, it would have seen a giant fucking Martian city.
Yeah, it's funny because they do the pull out, and you kind of see them like it really just needs to like turn.
Yeah, I know. Turn its head a little.
But it is funny because we obviously had the Mars rover that went to Mars,
but it looks very much like the Mars
very
rover.
much. But the big difference is it can roam around. It's got treads, right? And this one doesn't. It lands.
It lands, gives up right there,
and that's it. I had to say I did like the look of. We talked about Mars, and it's kind of like. We see kind of rock structures, and when we do eventually come to see the Martians, they're in almost these like dome adobe type kind of like structures.
Well, definitely the one home we see is very dome adobe. Like, I kept thinking like the shots of it from the outside, it looks like it's like something someone on SpongeBob would live on.
Right.
Like it looks like a coconut under the sea or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I mean the matte paintings are nice of the ancient.
Yeah, I love them.
That's cool. And then we jump forward to January 1999. They're going back to Mars. No one has bothered ever again to look at Mars between 1979 and 1999.
That's what I mean. And this took probably like 10 minutes. But it did seem like when I was watching this, I was like, guys, we didn't need to see that thing land. We could just have said, we landed in 1976. Anyways, let's get going. But it's just so funny they did that whole thing to be like, to no effect.
To no effect. It made me laugh, too, because I'm just like, and now we're sending the first manned mission to Mars. We've sent no other missions. We haven't looked at it again. Like, 20 years, we're like, well, let's forget about that place.
Hey, guys, we looked left. Should we look right? Nope. And let's not talk about it.
Let's wait 20 years and go. Yeah. At any rate, this is the first manned mission going, the Zeus 1 expedition.
What did they call it?
Zeus.
Oh, it was Zeus.
I believe it was Zeus 1, 2, and 3. And we get a nice like sequence where a rocket launches. It's all like mix of stock footage, and the control room looks good. And they have
they have the rocket. Looks like your normal sort of rocket we're used to seeing from NASA. It goes up, and correct me if I'm wrong, it breaks apart slightly and then connects to another ship that is already docking Earth. Is that how it was?
This is what's confusing about this. This did not make a lot of sense either. There's a whole rocket launch sequence where this rocket goes in space and is waiting outside in space. And then the astronauts go ahead and get on this little Harrier jet-looking thing.
Oh,
that
they were already on that.
Well, no, and that's on Earth, though. So they get on this Harrier, and they launch that up and then fly that into space and then connect to the rocket. I was just like, it seems like there's two vastly different technologies.
Oh, so I thought they were the rocket, and they had like sort of like
And that's
orbiting
what you
Earth.
would have assumed.
Right.
Yes.
But I mean, the whole point is it kind of looks, it's fun in that.
All the
look of
miniatures are
it.
fun. It's silly, and there's like you have to make a couple leaps of logic, but whatever. They gets them up there. It's fun
Yeah.
times. And this rocket heads off.
The launch also takes forever.
Oh yeah, this is the whole setup. They're like really selling you on the concept of this,
Yeah.
which was funny because for me, I was like watching this whole rocket. It's going to space. It's happening, and you cut back to mission control. And like, all right, now time to send up the astronauts. And I was just like, what? And they all just get on this little like plastic carrier jet that like just like slowly climbs out of space, and I'm like, okay.
But
whatever.
more importantly, we get to Mars.
My favorite part.
Do you see what the character's name was? Mr. K.
Just a domestic scene in a Martian living room.
I love it. So what you get is, again, what we see is this sort of like round rock structure. There's a dude and he's reading, but he's not reading. He's what is it? He's playing music.
No. He's spending his evening listening to a book.
That's what it is.
And I was
right.
like, just like Jordan.
Yeah. And but what I like is it's like a screen, and then it's got kind of like decorative. Almost looks like an open flower, kind of what he's and he's kind of touching it. Oh, and you know what it looks like a piece of like a steel drum is kind of what it looked like.
Yeah, when we see the Martian technology, like someone will read a book later, and it's like a seashell that you can like flip through or something. It's very hard, but like they've got it's very like sandstony or cementy and very like lots of shapes on Mars.
And what I like is he's there reading, listening to his book.
What do you think these guys look like? How would you describe the look of these Martians?
Like the Blue Man Group if they were reddish.
They're very human-esque, and then when you cut to a close-up of their face, their heads are a little more bulbous than ours.
But I think that actually just has to do with the bald cap. And they also have like kind of glowing eyes.
Those eyes are interesting. Like it wasn't like they were glowing so much as they shimmered.
I know what it is. I'm almost positive they've put contacts that are just reflective.
Very effective.
To a good effect.
I also one of my highlights of this, I'm like, more shows should try whatever this effect is.
Yeah, instead of doing it in post, it looks good. But I like his wife, Ela, I believe her name is.
Oh, I just called her Mrs. K.
Yeah, Mrs. K. She's just like
she's asleep on their.
She's just chilling
on their crystal couch.
Yeah, and she's just. But it's like
very uncomfortable.
That's the thing. It's like it's somewhat similar to the 1977. Or 79, I can't remember. The Superman, his Fortress of Solitude,
absolutely.
In that same kind of look, and like also you're like, this is not very comfortable, Superman. Like you didn't make yourself like a Barca lounger, but yeah, she's just laying on this rock and she's just like dozing and she's dreaming is what we find. But they also kind of had it somewhat sexualized, didn't you think so?
Oh man, no, it's very sensual.
Yeah, but why?
It's just to sell the concept. Like, she's napping on this couch, and
she's like in a flowing kind of somewhat transparent dress.
And like we'll come to learn later, but we get it from this scene pretty quickly. It's like clearly Martians have some telepathy involved, and in this particular case, it's not just telepathy, but a little bit of like, I don't know if she's seeing the future or if perhaps she's just like
she's seeing some sort of image
with the telepathy. She's getting a possible future, perhaps, or maybe she's just because what she's able to do is she knows someone's coming from Earth. And to the Martians, Martians think Earth is uninhabited as well. Too much oxygen, they say. No life could have
Yeah.
But she's dreaming of an astronaut. One of the astronauts coming. She knows his name. She's
York, I think.
York. She imagined he's coming, and as she's having this dream, she's really moaning a lot, which attracts her husband, Mr. K's attention. He comes and wakes her. And am I wrong? Does he come up and he's like, Yorg? I'm not positive he walked up and was like, Yorg?
I don't know, he might have said that. I know that he starts touching her knee and she's like, no. but yeah, so really what we get here is that he doesn't let her know that they do know at this point, or him or some sort of authorities
There's a bit of a break.
know.
I think she has this dream, and then we come back a few days later and she's still having these dreams. And in the meantime, because she sort of says she's like, she had a dream, people are coming from Earth, there's a hot guy on it, he's going to like asked me to go with him back to Earth. He's going to be really into me. And then basically Mr. K finds out it's actually happening. Someone is coming. And so next time she has that dream, she wakes up and she's like, did you have that dream again? She's like, oh yeah, real sexy still moaning as I sleep while we watch it.
Yeah.
And she's like, and after she does, she's like, I think I might go visit my friend who, did you say he was going to land at the green fields? I think I might go visit my friend at Green Fields. And Mr. K is like,
Yeah, he's like, no, you're not. And then I love this weapon. So
he's
like, oh no, by the way, I'm going off, and he puts on over his hand, which is the Martian weapon, and what it kind of looks like is an umbrella that's still closed.
Oh, that's very good. Like, yeah, it's that very much like a cone, but like a closed umbrella.
Yeah,
It just goes
but
over
it's
metal.
it's silver and it goes metal over your hand. And when we do see it shoot, we don't ever see like a laser or anything come out. It just makes a noise and you die.
Well, here's what I'm going to say.
He does describe it. No, there's something weird about it though, right?
Well, that's it. He puts it on, and there's like these. When he first picks up, there's these like big metal cylinders next to it, which I assumed were the bullets that go in the gun. And he just, and I could be wrong, so nobody quote me on this, but I believe this for the rest of the movie. She's just like, "Oh, isn't that the thing that launches bees?"
I thought he said that too. That's what I was.
So
I
for
couldn't
the
remember.
rest of the movie, I'm just assuming they're shooting bees at people.
Yeah, I think they just whatever instead of bullets they call them bees or something like
Could
that.
be. I don't know. I just like the idea that Martian bees getting shot at
But
you.
he puts that on, and then he also puts on.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to say it's a war mask. I wrote it down.
It's a big metal mask that's a big cyclops eye in the middle, and she's like,
it's called the Mask of Conflict.
"Yeah." She's like, "You're wearing the mask of conflict." And I was like, "Oh, here we go."
Yeah, I was like, you know what? That's the thing. You have a sexy dream. You know your husband's a little bit jealous. You tell the jealous husband. Now he puts on the Mask of Conflict and that umbrella gun. Like, there's no way this is going to go well.
No, it's very funny. And he just heads out, meets the lander. The lander's just landing as he gets there. We don't see any of it. It's all off screen. All you hear is gunshots off screen. He comes back. He's like, "Killed that guy who's going to have sex with you."
Yeah, he's just like, well, that unpleasantness is behind us.
And we cut, and we just see like 2 dead astronauts.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. And
I was having a great time.
I kept thinking, could you imagine watching a whole movie, and the whole movie is like, these astronauts getting to Mars and this whole thing, and as soon as they arrive, they just get killed, and that's the end of the movie. Like, how great!
Well, and I am also like, truly never seen a science fiction thing where it's because of the husband's so jealous he kills the astronauts. I was like, this is very funny.
And we're gonna obviously, as you said, these are big ideas, science fiction. This is all about there's a lot of ideas of colonialization and the sort of the ugly American and just these
misunderstandings, all that kind of stuff.
And so what we're going to get is that the Martians, despite this one guy's jealousy, they sort of like hand wave over this a little bit, but like they're very peaceful people, and everything they're doing is in defense of Earth, which they know is overpowered and over militarized, and they know
Earth is a destructive force.
It's a destructive force.
They can't let it come to Mars. And like that's the thing is like when we come to the later missions, that's what we hear is they're sorry that jealous that jealous husband is like an anomaly.
Yes.
Like they're fully willing to admit.
They're like our bad. That one
was on us. That dude was a jerk.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, now that we know you exist, we're now a little worried about you because you're like up there like dropping bombs on each other. Like,
yeah. There's a real feeling, and we'll have to when we have maybe I don't know a guest that's a little more. A little bit better with Bradbury. My memory is there's that feeling in the 1940s, 50s of that fear of nuclear war that runs through this book of these aliens feel it too. Of that's the possibility that you're going to blow up Earth and you're also going to blow up us.
Yeah. You're in a no-win situation, so the only thing you can do is preemptive violence. So we jump ahead. Mission Control never knows what happens to these astronauts. They just died up there.
By the way, don't you love that? They just they send a mission to Mars. Could you just imagine now, like, what was it, the Challenger that blew up? Or you think of these things like what a big news story it would be, and they're just like, well, anyways, I guess they're gone.
It is a very funny thing where like it's probably technology based too. It's like now we're used to like it just should be constantly feeding back data, but in this time there's like we just never got a message from them.
Yeah, and they do, and I mean not to get caught in the weeds of this, they do really kind of, and it's probably because it was written in the late 40s, early 50s. They don't talk about like the time lapse of like messages getting back and forth.
No,
Mars is very far away, and they sort of are like, oh, they were transmitting like constantly to us live. It's like, no, they're not.
This is very not hard sci-fi in some ways. Like it is in that it's a big ideas, but like he's not worried. The people aren't worried about how they get back and forth. I mean, even Mars in the show, they're just like, nah. There's like a light oxygen atmosphere there, so we don't have to worry about putting spacesuits on everybody. Yeah. They just wave their hand over.
I'll be honest, that's the kind of sci-fi I like. I don't want to hear all the I don't mind like if it works. You just like that's you go. Hey, there's enough oxygen. I go fine. That's enough for me.
No, and I appreciated that too. They just like said it's like light oxygen atmosphere. Just don't worry about it because like the first time we see the astronauts get out of the flight, I'm like that guy's not dead, and they're like, yeah, there's a little oxygen here. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I think they go, oh, it's a little lighter oxygen. Then later the one character goes running and he's like, oh, it's harder in this light oxygen. I was like, all right, you guys sold it.
Yeah, well that's just it. I think they did a good job with that.
Yeah.
Anyway, we jump forward. It's April 2000. There's 3 new astronauts headed to Mars.
Yeah.
They land, they look around, and they realize everything on Mars looks exactly like the small town of Green Bluffs, Illinois.
Let me just mention, don't you love that between 1979 and 2000, nothing changed for the technology and there's nothing, the clothing, nothing. They're
that
just like
Lander is the exact same one in 99, and then exactly the same.
Yeah. But yes, to your point, I think it's 3 astronauts that land, all men.
Yes.
All men, all white men. They land, and what you see is your sort of very classic 1950s middle America kind of town. There's a nice little church with a steeple.
A lot of clapboard houses, I believe they say.
Yeah.
And I will say, I'm going to give it this. After watching that first scene, which is a jealous husband who's clearly a Martian, kill everyone, to have them then land in what is like some sort of insane like recreation of Earth. I truly was like, I don't know what is happening. Like in a way that I enjoyed, but I'm just like, I don't know where this is going anymore.
And the astronauts don't know either. And there is that they sort of go, okay, did we actually land back on Earth? Did we time travel? Did we?
This is my favorite thing. The 2 other astronauts are always theorizing what it could be, and it was, is it possible that all the planets in the solar system have identical evolutions?
Yeah, that's a question.
Did we invent space travel before World War I and people colonized Mars and then we forgot to tell anybody?
Yeah,
they're all great explanations.
Well, because you're right, because what they point out is the trees are at least
quite
70 years old.
Yeah.
The houses are from the 1950s, so they're like these structures look old. It's not like someone just threw these up.
Yeah, did we go back in time and land on Earth, Planet of the Apes style?
But the telling factor, which happens pretty quick, is that the one gentleman, I don't know his astronaut's
Captain
name.
Black.
Captain Black. He's from some sort of. Did you write down what the town was?
Well, he's from Green Bluffs, so this is an exact recreation of his home.
That's the thing. So it's something's up because it's not just
he's
any
freaked
town
out.
USA. He's like,
out.
This is my childhood that I'm seeing, and then almost immediately as they're like, so they go into town, like I guess we'll explore. They knock on some door, the first house they come to, and the lady answers. She seems just like a normal lady. And they're like,
you're trying to sell something?
And she's like, are you guys selling something? They're like, no, we're astronauts. She's like, okay. And they're like,
are you census takers?
Yeah. And they're like, we're on Mars. And she's like, no, this is wherever that town
Green Bluffs,
is.
Illinois.
Yeah. And they're like, okay. And she's like, all right, I don't want to talk to you guys anymore. You're weird. And she just closes the door on them. And they're like, WTF.
I mean, to be fair, she sold it. I would also feel like I was the insane one.
Yeah. I did like how they suspended the disbelief for the viewer here because you don't know what has happened.
I was legitimately like, it's been 1 year and this is so different. I'm like, I don't even know what's happening on the show anymore, but I'm interested.
Until Captain Black's younger brother runs in.
Yes. I don't know if it's his younger brother. It's his brother who's been dead since he was 19 years old that arrives.
Right. So maybe you're right. So maybe he was the younger brother. I didn't actually think about that.
No, it doesn't really matter, though.
It doesn't matter, but it's the fact that
his dead brother is here.
Yeah. And we're going to meet very quickly his also dead mother and father. And they do even very quickly, but they do even pause it like, what if this is heaven? Like, what if that's what Mars is? Or what if we're dead? Like, and
It's interesting, too, because the mother, the father, the brother, they all acknowledge they're just like, yeah, we died. We don't know what's happening. Like, we don't know why we're here. But, like, it's a miracle. And, like,
why don't you just enjoy it?
Like, let's like, at least go meet the family kind of thing. And it's the same thing. So Captain Black will split off. And the other 2 astronauts, one of them will bump into his dead mother's there and they wander off. And the other one's just, like, was so funny to me. They're quite old. He's like, it's my dead aunt. I'm like, that's who you're.
Well, it was funny because they didn't want to hit the same beat 3 times.
Yeah.
So it's just like you can't have all of them find their old, relatives. They should have just done
a wife.
Or here's my dog, my childhood
dog.
Yeah. Just something. But it was like, there's my aunt. I'm like, does
I
anyone
know.
have that close a relationship with their aunt?
I thought too. Quite elderly aunt. I'm like, all right.
Oh, there's my babushka.
And Captain Black goes home to see his parents. It's a great reunion. They have dinner. They eat this weird pie pudding thing. What was that thing?
It was the weirdest looking prop. It looked like a brain or a gigantic fig.
It looked like a real 1950s dessert that we don't make anymore.
But later on, because of plot point, I think they say chocolate pudding.
Yeah,
but it did not look like chocolate pudding.
I think it was like a chocolate pudding pie of some sort.
Oh, it was funny, and it was because they just started getting into it. I'm like, what?
I know. I was
Is
like, what are they eating? And they're like, and Captain Black started to be like, I should go back to my ship and call back home. And this is when we get the sense something's wrong. So they're like, stick around. We have a surprise coming in from Chicago. We're flying someone in from Chicago to see you.
Uh-huh.
And that person is his old childhood sweetheart who broke up with him to go to college because her dad did not approve of a boy from the wrong side of town.
And you know what? I really like this, and maybe this is just I'm a sucker for this idea of getting the chance to redo things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not it only happens in I think 2 scenes, but there is that thing of like you feel there's this force, malevolent or otherwise, that is going to give Captain Black exactly what he wants. It's like, your family's back. And remember that girl that you always regretted things happening? She's back. You can redo all of this. And you're just like, you're not sure why.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel bad, but it's also, there's an unnatural thing because you can't redo the thing.
And I didn't mind too, because like when his family's just like, don't go back to tip, it's not even like they're like, never go back to tip. They're just like, just go in the morning. Like, you can, we're seeing you. Like, don't run to work. You can just go in the, like, it all felt like, I was just like, it's weird, but it felt natural to me in a lot of ways. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the sequence, even though it's like such an odd middle portion of this.
Yeah.
Anyway, he meets his old childhood sweetheart. They have a great time. It's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes to bed, and this is where it all fell apart for me. He's just like, they're like, well, when you're ready for bed, your bed's all made. And we see him come up to go to bed, and he's sharing a room with his brother in single beds. I'm just like, it's at this moment I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go sleep in the ship. I'm not sharing a bed as an adult man with my brother.
What I loved is because it's clearly still like kind of childhood room. Like these are like twin beds.
They're gonna put on their pajamas.
And he puts on his pajamas and he lays down and he says at one point, he's like, "Oh, this is so comfortable." And I was like, "You are like a 6'4" man. It is not comfortable."
Yeah, this is the moment where I'm like, no, this is where I go back and sleep in the ship, you guys. I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
But it's great. He gets in bed and he's reminiscing about the day with his brother, and it's like in his reminiscing, like he's really now analytically thinking about what an odd thing this is, and he starts like legitimately like, this is all. He starts saying, he's like, this is so weird. I mean, maybe this isn't real. Like, what if there were just like, what if this is a trick? And like he starts like saying this out loud to his brother. Yeah. What was great is his brother's laying in bed and he's just like, yeah, you're right. Actually, I am a Martian. We're fucking with you.
Yeah.
I love that his brother just like comes immediately clean, and it's because his brother's just like, we pulled this out of your brains, we recreated it all for all of you. Sorry, also that pudding you ate is drugged, and you are literally 5 seconds from being dead. Are bad.
Yeah,
but
they have telepathic abilities that can pull things out of people's brains, memories, images, and recreate them. So that's what they've done, and it was done in a defensive way because they think.
I mean, the alien explains it well. He's the Martian. He's just like, we're doing this. Like, we're not violent. We don't usually do this, but like, we are afraid of you. And this is the only defense we have, is we built this illusion so that we could drug you and kill you because we're afraid if more of you come. It was all, I think, authentic, and it worked for me.
And what I liked, I think, my favorite thing of all this is then we cut to, and I don't think there's anything in between this, but they cut to the funeral. That the aliens are having a legitimate like Earth funeral, almost like a military funeral for these 3 astronauts who they've now off-screen killed all of them.
Yeah, they've murdered all of them.
And they do, whatever. They have the minister talking and the music playing, whatever it is. And then they all just like, they're like, well, done. And then all the Martians walk off into the distance and sort of like just fade away because the image that they have created has gone away. And then here's what was odd. Did you notice the graves faded away too?
I think here's what I think was happening.
Do you think it was just supposed to be a time lapse?
I think so, because the narrator is explaining to us what's happening here, and even why they're still in human form is I think the concept is they absorbed all this information. It was hard for them to it took them a while to fade back to their original Martian selves, was the concept, I think. Whether it works or not, who knows? But I think that time lapse is supposed to be like years have gone by, green whatever it's called, green fields has finally faded away, and it's been so long that you can't even see the graves anymore. Maybe.
Right. Yeah.
I did like the ship is still there.
I did like this concept, and I liked that. I think this took maybe 20, 30 minutes of.
Yeah. We suddenly got a very it was like a new short story started.
And and it was enough, right? Like,
I didn't need more.
I agree. That's enough. I get the concept. I think it worked well. Done. Let's move on.
Like another show this would have been a whole episode and wouldn't have worked.
No. So at this point we've had.
So this is strike 2.
We've had 2 missions. Now, again, just structurally, do you think this would have hurt the show?
No.
Let's say we start here. Probably not, right?
I mean, I have to assume they're doing a fairly literal translation of a book. Because I agree. I'm
pretty sure this is in the book. I'm pretty sure. What I remember is something about telepathy and giving images. I don't remember this scenario, but it probably is the book.
It is. I don't think you're wrong, though. I think maybe something less slavish to the book, assuming it is slavish. Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm totally wrong. But I think a more carefully adapted piece would have focused it all on the 3rd mission. There would have been a lot of them going to the old astronaut sites, discovering odd artifacts, piecing together this mystery, and then getting explanations later. We'll get to the next mission, and I can see why that would have been tough as well. But we jumped forward. We're now going to the next expedition. One more year, every year, a new mission to Mars.
Yeah, isn't it funny that did they explain why they took such a long jump between the first 2 and then it was rapid?
No, because the first one is 1999.
Oh, you're right. Sorry, I mean why it took so long between 79 and 99.
No, I assume it's just because it takes so long to develop the technology to get a manned mission there.
Right.
But it is a very funny thing. It's like 30 years go by. We didn't bother doing it anymore. 20 years, pardon me. But yeah, June 2001. Zeus 3 is getting ready to go. Much bigger crew this time, as we sort of mentioned.
I think it's 5 or 6.
5 or 6. It's being this time finally. Rock Hudson, Colonel John Wilder is going to lead the mission. Major Spender is finally going to go. Jeff Spender.
And this is the third, right?
This is the third one.
Third one, right? Okay.
This is the third one. And this is we spent some time with these characters. We glossed over them earlier, but like they're finally going to get to go. It's very funny. I really enjoyed like after the first mission fails, there's a scene with Wilder and Spender, and they're talking about. They're like, if there's going to be another mission, we're going. Spender's like, I'm going, and Wilder's like, me too. If we go again, I'm going. Cut to mission 2. Neither of them are on it. I thought it was very funny and really good. But this time they actually are going. And what's really interesting is every time we go back and we talk to Spender, and even before they go on the mission, we're talking to Spender. And Spender's a really interesting character. He's the only one, and obviously it's for the purposes of like adapting the book, but he's always just like, I don't know, like I want to go, but I think it's a bad idea for Earth to colonize Mars. Whether it's inhabited or not, I think it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
That's always kind of his point. And I really enjoyed it because, A, great casting to make him the only black character who's really calling into question colonization. And it's always very funny because he's saying it to white people, and white people are like, every time they're like, what's wrong with colonization? Like, they're always confused by why.
Yeah.
Which, honestly, like, it's on the nose, but also, even in 2020, it, like, works really well. Like, it's like, such a great, like, trying to explain to someone, it's like, maybe we shouldn't go there. And they're like, why? Colonization rules. And he's like standing there looking at them like they're dumb, and they're looking at him like they cannot figure out what he means.
Yeah. And also I should say, so when we see the third expedition, I think they call it. Is it expedition?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When they land, there's a lot more personality to these guys than we've had in the previous missions.
You can tell this is going to be the bigger story of it all.
Yeah. And Kolchak.
He's the third astronaut in the group. Is Kolchak?
It's great, and he's just like he's a character right away. He wants a drink. He wants hot dogs or whatever they have.
He wants to be a chef. He's gonna build a restaurant.
And it's like you immediately get this personality. They're a little bit jokey. There's a guy with a mustache who seems like.
Well, that's it. There's the other 3 astronauts. 2 of them, like they don't know their names.
Yeah, they're not important.
And one of them is just like a mouthy New Yorker.
Yeah,
that's his whole character. He's a mouthy, jerky New Yorker.
I'm walking here.
Exactly that accent. It's so funny.
But what I love
Briggs,
is
I think.
I love Spender's entrance. They're all just like they've just got. It looks like they've just got off the rocket, and then Spender comes in like a flying motorbike, like he's from Galactica 1980.
Well, that's it. Everyone else is just hanging out at the rocket landing site. We don't even see the launch. They're just there. They're hanging out. They're looking around. They're like, a lot of Martian cities here, eh? Crazy.
Yeah.
Well, what's going on? Where are the other missions? And apparently Spender took their one-man helicopter. It's just the chair with the helicopter blades on top. That's like truly a thing. I'm sure it existed because he flies in and lands on it. It looks great.
Yeah.
And he's just like, they sent him off to check out all the cities by himself. And and they've been saying this, which is weird, something I could never quite figure out. But they keep saying like the city seems to have been abandoned for centuries, even though we know they were here a year ago. So it's a bit weird.
Yeah. Well, I think what it is that they appear the degradation of the cities makes it look like they've been there for a long, long time. And I don't think it's so much that they don't think anyone's been there for a year. It's that everyone is gone.
They appear like abandoned for that long.
Yes.
Because what Spender comes back and says, like, 4 out of 5 cities completely empty. Looks like they've been abandoned for centuries. Every 5th city, though, has one room you go into just piled in dead Martian bodies who only seem to have died like 10 days ago, all from chickenpox.
Yeah.
And the idea being they were like, I guess we brought chickenpox from Earth and literally like killed everybody on Mars.
And you get the feeling right away that Spender is very moved and very upset by this. And
the rest of the crew couldn't care less.
And the Rock Hudson character, Wilder, he's sort of the in-between. Like, he seems like his job is like, all right, everyone, calm down. We're okay. We're going to do these things. He's the voice of reason.
He's by the book, so he doesn't show a lot of empathy as a result. But we do know that he vacillates between the two.
Yeah, well, there's a couple scenes where he sort of like listens to Spender give him the sort of like explanation, and he's like, it's not that he's not listening, but he's sort of like, I get your point, but also we've got a mission.
Well, he comes back, tells them all the Martians were killed by chickenpox. Like, they've killed all these people. This great civilization has been wiped out because of them. They're like, let's get drunk.
Yeah.
They proceed to get drunk.
And Spender's very offended.
He's very offended. And like this mouthy New Yorker character, he's wasted drunk. And he just, there's like a canal, like a canal full of water nearby where they landed. He just walks over there and just starts hucking his garbage into the canal.
No, not only that. Do you know what really gets him is he starts peeing in it.
Oh, that's right. He starts peeing. And
Yeah.
Spender comes out and just cold cocks that man in the face. Like anyone would, like deservedly so.
Yeah.
And then Colonel Wilder comes over, reprimands Spender, and
For hitting him.
Yeah, which is like very appropriate. Like that's the point. Like these aren't oversights. They're really driving a point home to you.
Yeah.
But it is also very funny to watch. Like just like the only black guy get in trouble for knocking out the asshole.
No, I think they do a great job because it is that like they've arrived. They're being super disrespectful. They're not moved at all by hearing about this massacre that's happened, and then they're also just like throwing garbage and stuff around. And I thought it was really effective.
Well,
it was done well
for a show with, I would say, very little subtlety.
Yes,
it is still very effective.
Yeah.
Like I was remarkable. I'm like they are hitting all the things with a hammer, but it's still working.
Yeah.
I
agree.
At any rate, so you can kind of see that Spender has a very different opinion to what's happening here, and they go check out one of these Martian cities and like do a walk around and kind of see like everything in a Martian city is either a cone, a sphere, or a cube of some sort. Everything's very shapey.
Yeah, so you kind of see like roads that have sort of like obelisk sort of like stone structures along them, and yes, I don't know what they would purposely serve. There was a lot of just like globes.
No, I know. I mean, it looks cool.
I liked it too. I like the look of it.
And they built all these like huge sets out in a desert, so it all looks nice.
And
it makes no sense, but it looks nice.
Yeah, and you can see off in the distance. We don't really get to see the city up close, at least not in this. But you see on the distance, they're very like, they almost mimic like mountain range. Like there's very spiky kind of buildings and stuff. But you kind of just have to use your imagination.
And as we've kind of seen, Spender's like so impressed by the civilization. Like he's like blown away that this existed, and everyone else is just like it's like a tourist group. Like he's like so incredibly impressed by this museum. Everyone else is bored and wants to go home.
Well, he wants to, and I don't know if it's here, but he wants to like read the literature, and he wants to find artifacts. He's so concerned and interested in the society and the culture, and it is odd that the rest of the astronauts are so uninquisitive and
I mean, it's just because there's not a lot of subtlety, but because they need to sell and it's because so much happens in such a short period of time, they almost don't have time to like put variation. There's no time for shades of gray.
But it is, you would agree, it's kind of funny, right? These
it also
astronauts that
makes
go
you
up
laugh,
and they're just
yeah.
like, whatever, so we're Mars. I'm like, okay, you're the first people on Mars and you
I
don't
know,
seem to care.
They're just wanting to get drunk
Yeah.
and like play the accordion.
Yeah.
They're very, for astronauts who have flown all the way who are either scientists or military men, the only way you got here, they're all basically like blue collar like guys who are just doing a job and could care less.
And I should mention another point that Spender makes, and I don't know if it's here, might be later, is he's very worried that their presence alone, through their actions or otherwise, will contaminate the planet just from the fact that they don't belong there.
Yeah.
They're an outside force that this is what they should be concerned about, and this is what he's sort of trying to articulate, and they're all just like, meh.
Who cares? They're dead.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's on this mission that Spender's just like, hey, you guys, you head back. I know you're bored. I'm going to leave me here. Let me just look around some more. And they're like, it's very funny. They're like, okay, great, have a great time.
Well, I think he says to them, he's like, I'll be back in a little bit. And the Kolchak character, he's just like, he's not coming back.
Yeah, it's true. And then we cut. It's like a week later. They've been hanging. The uninquisitive astronauts have all been hanging out at their rocket ship.
Just barbecuing, I guess.
Barbecuing. Spender appears. He's found that metal umbrella gun that the Martians have made. He shows up. Old mouthy New Yorker's like hanging out by that canal again. I assume peeing in it some more.
Yeah, he was sitting there with his feet off like he was a Huckleberry Finn with his feet in the water, and he's like, I'm sitting here. And then he's like, are you? And he goes, bzz, bzz, and shoots him with
yeah. Spender just
kills him.
He comes back, blows that guy away.
And I should say, at this point, and it took me to a couple lines, and maybe you felt differently. When he came... and knowing what we had just seen previously about the telepathy and stuff, I had thought what had happened was he went over, had died, or was there in some way, and this was a Martian, and had taken his form.
They want you to think that too, because he goes and he kills the other two astronauts.
Because he's acting a little different.
Well, and when he kills the other two like generic astronauts, he does talk about. He's like, I met a Martian when I was out there, and he asked for my uniform, so I gave it to him. And like he gives like a very like flowery speech that implies that, but. Really what we're going to learn is it's less that he may have met a Martian. He keeps implying that there might be a couple, not enough to ever rebuild the civilization, but a few like scattered bits alive. But I think what it is more is we're supposed to get that, like, he's gone out, he's, like, wandered around, and not that he's gone mad, but he's just, like, realizes, like, what was beautiful is gone, and I will be the last Martian to defend this place from you monsters.
Yeah.
Like, that's the theory, I think, behind what's Spender's happening. So he kills these last two astronauts, then he walks away, and, like, at this point, Kolchak and Colonel Wilder come back, find the dead astronauts, and it's like, well, we got to go hunt down Spender. Like, he's gone mad.
He's gone native, as they say.
He's gone Mars crazy.
I mean, we wouldn't say that now, but that would be the expression back in the day.
Oh, yes, perhaps.
I'm just saying.
I know.
And I'm Orwell, I believe, used that.
Vacillating and refusing to wait.
Well,
I'm just kidding, Jordan. It's fine. It's fine. Is it fine?
Well, it's not fine, but I think it's, I'm sure in Heart of Darkness or whatever, I'm pretty sure that's what they said about Kurtz.
No.
He
I understand I understand what you're saying.
It's not my term, everyone. Don't get angry at me. Send Luke the emails.
It's fine. Everything's fine. They go out to track him down, and eventually they do find him, and there's a bit of a standoff, and Spender basically is like, hey, listen, let's call a quick truce. Can I talk to you, Colonel Wilder? I just want to talk to you and just tell you what's happening. And, like, they go up and they have a nice conversation where he does explain. He's just like, listen, I am going to kill you, and I'm going to kill Kolchak, and it's not because I'm mad at you, but, like, I've been here. He seems to say he's learned the language a bit. He understands what's...
Yeah, he has somehow learned quite a bit in a few days.
It's a bit of a stretch for sure, but he's just basically just like, we've killed everyone here. It's gone.
It's on us.
It's on us. And if we bring more people here, we're just going to bulldoze this whole thing. We're going to wipe even the existence of this office. Even if we try to save it, we're going to lose it.
But what I like is there's a realism to what he says here in his speech, and I think it's very well written. And he says, I realize that even what I'm doing is a little bit futile because I'm going to kill you guys, and you're going to send another mission next year, but I'm going to kill them. And there's going to be another mission after that, and I'm going to kill them. And I maybe have only another 30 years of my life, but I will
keep you off of this planet.
For the rest of my life, I will keep you off. And if all I can do is say I saved us for 50 more years, that's enough. And I actually thought that was a really interesting idea.
It is truly an interesting concept for sure. I really like that too. Just this idea is like I know it's futile, but like we are the monsters, and I will keep us off this planet to my dying breath, basically.
Yeah.
And he offers to like show the captain or Colonel Wilder like a little bit of their life, and he takes them into the city, and they go to like this big.
And this point, it was like, that's not selling much. There's not
it's not much more to go, and he just kind of is pushing the same thought pattern of just like we're the problem, like we're gonna wipe out, like he'd rather this just be like an empty dead planet, but at least what was here remains than us coming here kind of thing. And he's like, listen, and it sort of ends with he's just like, listen, Colonel, we're gonna fight each other now. Like that's what's gonna happen. You're gonna go back and we're gonna try to kill each other. He's like, if you win, can you just promise me you will try to stop us from destroying this planet? And like the colonel's like, I'll try my best, but I won't stay with you. Like I won't join your crusade. Yeah. He goes back, gets Kolchak, they gear up, head back to the city. They find Spender. He's now dressed in the mask of conflict.
Yeah.
He's got
and I'd say you have to kind of take it with not a grain of salt, but understand the budgetary strains. Like the action sequences are not great.
Yeah, they don't have the time and space,
but it's fine. It's effective, and basically what it is, what the kind of action piece is this sort of road that they're on that has these tall rock structures, so people can kind of hide behind them and shoot. And it's kind of choreographed okay, but
Spender's kind of a mysterious. He keeps popping up anywhere. Like he could be behind you at any moment.
Yeah, but it ends out pretty quick. They shoot each other a few times, and I believe it is
Colonel Wilder does kill.
He has like almost like a machine gun there.
Yeah, they have like crazy. The weapons they brought to Mars are insane.
Yeah, so he shoots Spender a bunch of times, and he goes over, and Spender essentially dies in his arms.
Yeah, and it's kind of nice because he dies in his arms, and the colonel's holding him, and the colonel, I believe some of his last lines are basically to the effect that he's like I lament the future. He's just like,
he's right.
We've already wrecked Mars. Like it's too late. Like I get Spender's, like he understands Spender's like thing, but he's holding a body that he just shot. He's just like, we've already done it. Like it's already over. Like we've ruined everything.
Yeah.
And that's the end of of the episode.
It's such a down
one.
End.
I'm just like wild, and up to this point I didn't realize. And I kind of got it by the end of this. Like, it's probably going to be very different stories, but set in the same universe kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I was pleasantly surprised by this. Like, it's certainly broad, and it's not trying to be subtle, but I thought it was effective.
Yeah, it hit home for me more of the sci-fi I like. Like, not a big secret. I like Star Trek. I like the moral tales of Star Trek. I like that kind of sci-fi, and I think this did it well. Again, I wasn't sure the first half hour because I kept thinking, do I need this? Do I need this? But
you're probably right, we don't.
But I understand kind of by the end the sort of idea behind it all, so I get why they wanted to keep laying things out for you to see so that the arguments at the end would land a little harder. That's really what it is. But this could this have been an hour? Of course it could have been.
There's probably a better version of this, but it's surprisingly well done, all things considered. And yeah, I mean, I was impressed. Like, you know it's going to be anti-colonial, which is great. Like, it's a great story, but I actually thought, like, it pushes it further, even beyond just, like, it's bad to take over a person's planet. It's just, like, it's bad to go to Mars. Like, what right do you have to even go to a dead planet? Like, what right do you have? Like, and
even more so, I think this is weirdly we keep calling what's his face, the character Kolchak, but there was an episode in Kolchak that we watched not too long ago, which was the idea that at one point on Earth, aliens land and they don't do anything, but just by the fact them being there, it creates such a ripple effect that there's just consequences just by being there. And I think there's a little bit of that in this too, right?
Oh, yeah.
Even us Spender's like, even us landing here is bad.
Well, it's great because it sets up, like, first one, they just kill the astronauts. Second one, the astronauts are killed because of deception. They're like, we got to keep you off this planet. You come back the third time, and I was expecting, like, when are we going to get to, like, the war, or when they have peace treaty? Like, we get there, they're dead. Like, there was no conflict, there was no escalation. It was just like, we killed them by accident.
Just by showing up.
And then, like, to then take that to the next level, just like, it's not even just like, oh, it's so terrible we killed them by accident. It's just like, also, we still have no right to be here. It's like, dead or alive, who cares? You don't have any right to be here. And I was just like, this is like big ideas they're pushing for.
So I'm interested to see, again, how much I remember, for one, and what these stories are. Because clearly it's going to be, we're going to keep progressing in the future and different type of
further and further
expeditions.
into how the colonization of Mars is going, I imagine, anyway.
Yeah.
I imagine I don't quite know where they're going to go with it, though. I have no idea.
Me neither, no. Did you see the little preview for the next episode?
I did see a quick preview with Roddy McDowell, and I was just like, I don't know what this show is.
And there was like a weird swashbuckling thing, and I was like, all right, I'm in.
I turned it off pretty quickly, but I was just like, I'm like, well, this is going to be quite different from this episode, apparently.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's rate this then.
Yeah. I really enjoyed this, didn't you?
I did too.
For me, it's so close. Like, here, I'm going to give it a 7.5, and it's almost an 8, because I really liked it. It's just I did feel I couldn't get past how long it took me to get to some of the bigger ideas, which I really liked. And I understand how they were seeding it and how it was. Those were all structural, but I kept just being like, guys, get to the really good stuff that I like, all these ideas. So for me, it's like it's 7.5, hopeful that the next one will be an 8.
It's funny, 7.5 as well, exact same thoughts. I'm like, it's good almost in spite of itself.
Yes.
Like, it thank God is, I guess, based on such good source material. And like, I think Richard Matheson's a good screenwriter, so I think they do a lot.
Actors are good.
So it could, like, and there's a million ways I think you could sit down and say this could be better in a million different ways.
Yeah, we didn't need like a 3-minute launch sequence.
Yeah,
but like it's fine. But like, yeah, it's 3 minutes.
But at the end of the day, it's still like the ideas work so well, and like the stuff that does works so well. That it's like, I was also like, is it an 8? I'm like, it's not quite an 8.
Yeah, but what it is, Luke, is that it's the lasting ideas, because you leave and you kind of forget about how slow things were or
the
stuff,
silly bits.
You just forget about it because you're left with these ideas that's what make these kind of things great, because you go, oh, right, that is an idea, and this is something that is reflected in our society and things we've done in history, and that's what makes this really good. But you're right, it's very close to like really good, but I'm hoping that they're going to get there in the next 2 episodes.
I can definitely see why it's not a classic of the genre.
Yes.
But I'm like, still, I'm like, 7.5 is the perfect place for it to live.
Yeah, 7.5.
I'm glad we both had the exact same experience for a change.
It doesn't always happen.
Very rarely, but we had a nice time. Well, I am very curious to see where this goes.
And Bernadette Peters is going to be in this. What a weird
Bernadette Peters. I saw her name and I recognized it. I'm like,
she's sort of like a song and dance kind of.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting cast on the show. But I think that wraps it up for this episode. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
You can email us at continuedrag@gmail.com if you have anything you want to let us know. And, of course, on Instagram and Twitter, we'll have some of the very fun effects on this show. Very practical, very dated, but a lot of fun to watch.
I love the noise of the hand umbrella gun. I loved it.
It's good. I love all the font for, like, all the dates. It's just like a very late 70s font, very chunky and cool. I really enjoyed that a lot. So you'll see that on Instagram and Twitter at continuedrags, the handle there. But that about wraps it up. So, Jordan, or listener, thank you for joining us. And Jordan.
Well, thank me. I joined you as well.
Oh, you did join me. But I'll see you next week.
I'll see you then.
Continuum Drag is recorded in Toronto, Ontario. Theme music by James Rex Seidler. Produced by Jordan Dullock and Luke Black. Special thanks to Aaron Hughes.